Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Could the New York Giants be trading for their next quarterback, and might he be a Super Bowl champion? Also, what are the biggest storylines coming up on the NFL Combine? And the Panthers are on the verge of a breakout season.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The LA Rams won a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford with an ideology that I cannot repeat on this show. But they did not care about draft picks. They traded everything to win that Super Bowl. Now, Matthew Stafford could be on the other end of that. And right now, the popular pairing is in New York. Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants joins me now. And Patricia, now the reporting is, well, we'd like to keep Matthew Stafford, but if we were going to part with him, it would be a first-round pick, which is normally how these things go. Let's chum the waters here. Do you think this makes sense in New York?
Not for a first-round pick. Absolutely, positively not. If that's what the Rams want, if I'm Giants general manager Joe Schoen, I tell them thanks, but no thanks. Although probably he would come up with more colorful language than what's allowed on this program. Stafford for the third overall pick, no. You might as well, if that's what you're going to do, you might as well take, one of the young quarterbacks at that spot. But look, here's the thing with Stafford. He just turned 37 years old. He's had some injuries over the last few years. When he's on, he's on. When he's not, it's disastrous. He's not the long-term answer. And while I think he would be a good bridge quarterback, and I would embrace it if if a third overall pick wasn't part of the deal, I don't think I would go and give up any first-round picks for him.
What if it was a pick swap? Like, what if it was Matthew Stafford and the Rams first for the Giants first? That is something that I have seen out there. Does that assuage some of your concerns, or is this just not part of where the Giants are, you think, to take a swing like this?
No, if any first round pick swap, whatever, the answer is no. It's a hard no for me, hard pass. The Giants, they have so many needs. If they were one quarterback away, then I would say, okay, maybe you give it some thought. But they are not one quarterback away, all right? With that third overall pick, they can grab one of Sanders or Ward, or if Abdul Carter is on the board, or Travis Hunter, if he's on the board, they can get a really game-changing type of player at the third overall pick. So, if they're going to trade, I could see them maybe moving down a couple of spots, maybe swap places with the Raiders, depending on how the board falls. But no way would I trade down with the Rams, who I think are picking towards the bottom half of the draft. So I would not do that pick.
Okay, so if it's not going to be Matthew Stafford, who is going to be the quarterback for the New York Giants in 2025?
Well, I mean, you can't rule out Matthew Stafford. If the Rams are reasonable in what they want in return for him, assuming they even put him on the block, then you listen. If it's a day 3 pick, heck, I'd do it. I mean, for a day 3 pick, I'd have no problem with that. But if it's not going to be Stafford, I think the Giants, even though this is not a good quarterback class as far as depth, I think you look to maybe grab somebody. Do you take a Cam Ward? I think who I've seen be the guy that a lot of people are leaning towards. Sure, I could see that. Do you wait and see if you can get a Jackson Dart or, a Will Howard? I could see that as well. But you got to get a guy in here as a veteran bridge, somebody who can win you some games. Because, look, the bottom line is Giants ownership, whether they intended to or not, they've already lit the fire underneath the seats of Shane and Dable. So they basically, John Mara saying, I'm running out of patience. We've got to start winning. Well, if you're Joe Shane, even though you're saying I'm not going to pull a Hail Mary, you've got to get a guy in here who can win you some games, that can keep the seat warm until you figure out what your long-term plan is. So as to who that's going to be, I don't know. Is it going to be a Russell Wilson with whom they flirted with last year? Could it be Justin Fields? Could it be Jimmy Garoppolo? It could be any of those guys. Sam Darnold, I think, is going to want too much money. So there's going to be some options. It's just a matter of what the cost is going to be and what the best fit is going to be.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about veteran options because of exactly the point that you made about ownership. They want to win, and especially with the very public breakup with Saquon Barkley and his success, I think that amplifies the pressure even more here. I was going to ask you about some of those veteran options. One name you didn't mention, Kirk Cousins. What do you think is the best, most likely, most reasonable, best fit here? Like, what is the Goldilocks zone for them?
I don't think it's Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins, unless he gets released, I wouldn't go there. I think, if you're the Giants, look, you're going to have to pay to get a veteran quarterback in here, regardless of who it is. Do you also want to pay draft picks? I think ideally they would want to stay away from that. But the flip side of that is what gives them the best chance of winning? Who gives them the best chance of winning? So if that's Stafford and the price is reasonable, then I think they make that move. If it's not reasonable and the Rams dig in, then I think you look at maybe an older veteran who has a history of winning, coming through the clutch, who's relatively healthy. I don't know, does Jimmy G fit that role? Possibly. Russell Wilson, I think, can fit that role if he's not retained by the Steelers and he doesn't reunite with Pete Carroll in Las Vegas. It's just not a good year to need a quarterback, regardless if you're looking at the draft or free agency. So you get somebody in here on the idea that maybe it's a short-term solution, and then you see where you're at next year, and maybe you look to address it next year when the draft class is supposed to be a little bit deeper.
You can stay up to date on the New York Giants by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Giants on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, we discuss the biggest storyline surrounding the NFL Combine. Before we get to that, the NFL salary cap is skyrocketing. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love FanDuel's live betting features because every moment is exciting when I follow my team on a late game rally. When the player I picked hits a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. The NBA back in action, and now is a great time to get in on some late night lines. The Suns, 2-point favorites on the road against the Spurs and the Lakers. 4-point favorites in Portland. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The NFL salary cap is getting a major raise. Last year, we saw the largest cap increase of all time, going from $224.8 million in 2023 to $255.4 million for the 2024 season. While an official figure has yet to be established, the league provides the clubs a projected salary cap range of $277.5 million to $281.5 million per club for the 2025 season, according to reports. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's almost $50 million in just 2 years. The Los Angeles Lakers look to continue their hot streak against the Hornets.
This is Andy Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers return from the All-Star break with a 197 loss in LA to the Charlotte Hornets. I guess Mark Williams got his revenge game, even though he wasn't much of a factor other than catching a body on a LeBron James monster dunk. The Lakers led by as much as 13 points pretty late into the third quarter, but a bad series of events. Austin Reeves gets ejected. The Lakers start getting very befuddled by a Hornets zone defense. The Hornets start getting on a massive run, and the Lakers offense was just very gummy, very off kilter. They shot 29% from 3. Very little synergy between LeBron and Luka, who had a rough night himself, 14 points, 5 of 18 from the field, 11 assists and 8 rebounds, but also 6 turnovers. So a lot for the Lakers to work on. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
In men's college basketball, the Alabama Crimson Tide travel to take on top 20 Missouri in a high-stakes SEC clash.
LFG, Missouri takes down Alabama. We score over 100 points. Are we good or what? This is pretty fun. Hey, how about a little M-I-Z? That's what's up.
The NFL offseason doesn't officially open until mid-March, but the unofficial start to the offseason is the Combine in Indianapolis. That kicks off next week. Keith Sanchez from Locked On NFL Draft joins me now. And Keith, this is a draft class that I think people are struggling to get excited about because of the lack of true blue chip talent at the top. And this class is really deep at offensive line, defensive line. It's not the sexiest positions traditionally. That being said, it is really good in those places. We just saw the Super Bowl champions win because they win in the trenches. Give us someone in the trenches to be excited about at the Combine.
Wow, I have quite a few people. We're looking for edge rushers, right? That's where I think every team's bread will be buttered, right? And what's going to be fun, if you want me to get you excited about this, I think the potential wheeling and dealing that can happen as far as teams potentially trading from 15 to 25, 25 to 35 to find their guy and also recoup more picks, because I think this is going to be a volume draft. If you have plenty of picks in the range of 30 to 75, I think you can win a lot, because while there may not be a lot of blue chip prospects, there are a lot of NFL starters in this draft class. So start with the edge rusher from Texas, Barron Terrell. I had an opportunity to speak with him at the Super Bowl. You want to talk about a young man that's wired the right way? He is wired the right way. He was very impressive at the Senior Bowl. I spoke with him at the Super Bowl. So definitely somebody that flies off to me. And then I like couple different guys. I like Kyle Kennard from South Carolina, another edge rusher that can provide a lot of high level reps. So definitely this edge rush class is definitely something to pay attention to.
We have question marks with these quarterbacks. Someone is going to talk themselves into them, but they were really fun college players. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, really fun college players who have a chance in the NFL. I want to get to some of the other quarterbacks, but do you have a preference between those two?
Yes, I do. First off, I'll say I think both guys are really talented and skilled, and I think they're, I would say, underrated, honestly. And then, so I'm going to make that statement. Then the second statement I'm going to go with is Shedeur Sanders to answer your question. That's my preference. I'm buying into the pedigree. I'm buying into, you know what, it's not very often that we get to see high-level quarterback prospects in tough situations, and we've seen what Shedeur Sanders can operate amongst chaos, because 9 times out of 10, if you're picking towards the top of the draft, you have a chaotic situation. So I like the fact that he's already accustomed and adjusted to that.
Yeah, I love the point that you made on our NFL Squad show, which people will be able to hear soon in their feeds, about he's lived in the limelight basically his entire adult life. And there are very few players who you can say that about. And so he's tested in that way. I loved the point that you made there. Check out the NFL Squad show for more on that. Shameless plug there. Fans like to be excited about receivers. And while Travis Hunter, it sounds like he's going to play corner, like in the NFL at the Combine as a corner. Give me a couple other names, non-Travis Hunter names to watch, because we know those guys are going to run fast.
Yep. Let's go with Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas. His name is starting to pop up. Just to add context to it, this was a guy that I gave a 2nd-round grade. So he transferred from University of Houston to Texas. So this is his first year at Texas. I gave him a 2nd-round grade at Houston. So just him getting into Texas, I think this is just him, brighter lights, right? And I think when it comes down to being able to separate from defenders, he can flat out do that. I think he can vertically push up the field. I want to look at somewhere in between a cross of what Jordan Addison, right? What he provided for people, and also some of the quick twitch explosiveness, maybe not on the same exact level, but in that same tax bracket as a Zay Flowers. So I think Matthew Golden can go, and I think we haven't even seen the best of what Matthew Golden can do.
And he's bigger than both of those guys by height and weight, right?
Yeah, he's bigger. Both, I think he's listed at 6 foot, 190 pounds. So he also provides the opportunity to be a true Z receiver that can also play outside, and he's proven that at Texas.
Who do you think has a chance to make the most money for himself at the combine?
Oh, this can be very fun. This is fun. I'll have to go with Amari Hampton, because I think right now he's running back 2, right? And there's a consensus. But what if he comes in bigger, stronger, faster than Ashton Genty? I think people start bringing up the conversation and the narrative of, hey, where did this guy play versus where did the other guy play? I think that can be very fun. I think Amari Hampton could potentially jump himself into a top 15 pick. He kind of reminds me of Ezekiel Elliott a little bit.
You can stay up to date all year on the NFL Combine and the NFL Draft by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On NFL Draft on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Bryce Young and the Panthers are about to break out. Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers found some rhythm toward the end of the 2024 season. Locked On NFL host Tyler Rowland and Luke Braun believe that Carolina is primed for a breakout year.
I could see the Carolina Panthers being this year's Arizona Cardinals, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's perfect. Andy Dalton must be very good for Bryce Young. That's, I guess, was my first reaction to that news.
Right.
And that is like the biggest question of the whole NFC South. Maybe the whole NFC is how much of a participant are the Panthers going to be? Mm-hmm. And bringing back Andy Dalton doesn't tell me much about that, but obviously it was Bryce Young's kind of halfway breakout back of the season. Was that something worth paying attention to, or did he just get hot for a few weeks and then it's going to fall back into what it was before? But, you know, a young quarterback developing a little bit in his second year is certainly not unheard of.
No, and I think, the way that I view it is not so much that he could drop back. To me, it was a big deal because we had never even seen it before. We had not seen it at the NFL level. So at that point in time, it was like, can we believe in this guy at all? People were just completely jumping overboard on the Bryce Young boat, I'll say. But the fact that he was even able to play at that level, I think that tells you something. And for the Panthers, it provided so much clarity for them to go into I think if he didn't have that moment in the sun, they would be discussing quarterback options this offseason. They are decidedly not doing that. And I think that's
a bad year to be doing that.
Exactly. That sort of clarity gives the Panthers a great path forward. I think they really got to add some help on defense. J.C. Horn is a good player. They have some young players on that side of the ball, but the defense has to take a step forward. And they bring back defensive coordinator Irjo Evero. Like, was that the right decision? I don't know. I feel like they really need to take a step on that side of the ball. And, of course, you can add to Bryce Young, but it's the defensive side of the ball, even though Bryce Young's the more poppy thing to talk about, that I think would define the Panthers season this year.
I would just like the record to reflect that I had the Panthers before the year. I believe it's something crazy like 18-1 to win the NFC South. So I was a believer in the trajectory before the year. Then they benched Bryce Young, and I was like, okay, well, I guess this is just not going to happen for them. They screwed this up. But then the weirdest thing happened. They brought Bryce Young back, and he played like a different human. Not a significantly bigger human, but a different one. The offensive line played better. Dave Canales, the new head coach, found a rhythm with this offense, and they looked like certainly not a contender, but a real NFL team. That's a nice start for Carolina. And if Bryce Young is, maybe he was the 20th best quarterback in the league last year by the end of it. What if he's the 14th best this year, the 12th best? What if guys like Xavier Legette get incrementally better? What if they use a high draft pick and nail this draft? It's not like they're a sleeping giant, but they're putting together something in Carolina, and it is definitely something to keep an eye on. And finally, Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown is celebrating his Super Bowl victory, well, in an interesting way. Brown's girlfriend, Kelsey Riley, posted a TikTok video on Tuesday showcasing a mannequin Brown purchased to display his game-worn uniform on the mannequin. Still hasn't washed it, by the way. Sometimes a ring isn't enough. Honestly, this is better than a ring because you're not going to wear the ring all the time. Anytime someone comes over to your house, they're going to see the jersey. They're going to see the mannequin. I love it. I love it. You need a mannequin that's about as lifeless as the Chiefs were in Super Bowl 59. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, could some of the NBA's biggest stars be placed on the trade block if things go poorly in the playoffs? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.